4 years later, 4 years waiting for the federal government to answer my Freedom of Information Act request on a day, it was a Sunday, along with the second day, not long after, in October, during which the city of Chattanooga and Hamilton County were, you could say, blessed with a visitation. And that visitation was an interlacing network of clouds laid across the city over and over again all day long in a remarkable display of geoengineering power. That was what we saw that day in August, that day in October, and then another day, not about 2 weeks later, in November. An extraordinary outpouring of coal fly ash over the city. Now, I'm trying to remember if at that time I had read any of the work of the scientists in San Diego who had made finally the determination that what we have in what is called chemtrailing is actually geoengineering by weather management by the pouring out of recycled coal waste. The clouds that spread across the sky coming from the tail end of jets that crisscross the skies on certain days in a very organized fashion, pouring their clouds, dumping, you could say, their tattoos, their negative tattoos across the sky, creating the hazy mist that has become very common, but less so of late. This is David Toulis, and the affidavit, I'm sorry, not the affidavit, but the letter that I got from the U.S. Department of Transportation, the FAA, is dated August the 30th and is in response to a request that came 4 years ago after these two dates that I thought were simply remarkable demonstrations. I got some information earlier, though it was useless. It was jet coordinates of all jet transponders that were available to be given to me at the time, information for which I could make no use, even though I consulted a website operator who goes into the deep science of geoengineering and tracking the man-made intervention in the weather. Now, that intervention we're hearing about elsewhere, Donald Trump is blamed for Hurricane Florence because he hasn't done enough to manage the weather. There is some claim that he has authority to rule the weather, and in fact, his government does. And I would like to suggest has been doing so for some time, at least since the time of John F. Kennedy, who I think in 1961 or so made a speech in front of the United Nations saying that we will control the weather, and that is what has happened. Now, the question is, David, did you get anything of value from this one-page letter that could have been sent in a business envelope? But no, it was sent in a large manila envelope, unfolded, a large manila envelope, which costs more than a first-class letter and has a single unfolded piece of white paper in it with about 3 paragraphs with a sincerely from Michael C. Artist, the Vice President of Systems Operations Services Air Traffic Organization. And the key sentence is this, that there is a certain part in 10 U.S. Code states that, in part, the Department of Defense may exempt critical infrastructure security information where such disclosure would reveal vulnerabilities that, if exploited, would likely result in the significant disruption, destruction, or damage of or to Department of Defense, DoD, operations, property, or facilities. It sounds like the feds are telling me that, well, if we tell you what you want to know about sky striping or geoengineering, also called by Alex Jones, for example, and we have here on our station, chemtrailing, there might be a riot or a civil war that might lead to disruption, destruction, or damage of or to DoD operations, property, or facilities. You just have to laugh. Now, the key word is critical infrastructure security information. Those are the key 4 words in this one-page letter from the government 4 years after I asked for information about the military industrial complex and the security state interest in weather management. If you want to know, how good Facebook is in reading your information and predictively declaring what your interests are, just go to our Facebook page. David Tulis here, 92.7 FM, Nigga Radio. Also 95.3 FM HD4. That's high definition, high def, channel 4. Facebook has offered me to repost my photographs from a Nuganomics post 4 years ago, in which I tallied the next day the magnificent display of jet tracings, negative tattoos, which are said to be coal fly ash, which is the perfect toxic. It is a toxic substance, and it does damage health and the environment. Of course, all pollution is considered a damage to the environment, but almost half of coal waste, especially of the very fine particulate matter, is recycled, and some unknown portion of it is recycled by the government in dumping it in the sky for everyone eventually to breathe and everyone eventually to consume on plants and vegetables and farm animals. Consume it. This material, which is a not called a toxic waste, but it is toxic because it contains things such as mercury and aluminum and so on. So I cannot find out about what's happening over Chattanooga on those 2 days. We've been sky striped extensively, and I'm the only journalist in Chattanooga that understands this to be an important environmental issue, and that makes me, David Tulis, on the right wing stations, as they say, the leading environmental journalist in the southeast of Tennessee, the libertarian Christian former deacon, right, reporting on the biggest environmental story in 50 years, and that is the government's management of the weather by dumping what the scientist says is coal fly ash. He's made that determination and is taking incredible flack for it. His papers are being revoked and unpublished, and he's clearly on the right track because he's meeting intense academic opposition. Academic opposition, apart from the proper ethical treatment of scientists who have their work reviewed by named parties and critiques published by named parties and then answered by the author of the paper. So he's had that whole process of identifying his accusers short-circuited, and so we're not going to find out much from the government about that. So exempt critical infrastructure security information means I can't find out about those two events. Well, this is David Tulis, and there is, of course, the revival of Miller Park with 10 million Federal Reserve note units called dollars spent to flatten that park out, remove all tree life. There's no shade. There's not a lick of shade in that park now. And there are vendors, people playing music, bands, and so on all day long here in Chattanooga. No doubt a delightful occasion to drop in on. If you've done work early today, maybe you can go down to Miller Park, and that will be a venue in the future for performances. Of course, if you had trees where people could lounge under, that means the view is blocked. So, the closer the trees are to the stage there on the south side of that oval, the more the view is blocked. So there was some interest in having it become a place where people join in concerts and assemblies, rallies, and so on. This morning I met Keelah Jackson, a young woman in poverty who is still fighting the Dred Scott decision. Dred Scott is the decision by Justice Roger Taney in 1858. I think that's the year that explained why the black man could not be manumitted. And there's a key passage in there in the effort to reduce the holdover slave day laws and customs that we have even today. And Keelah Jackson feels sharply those badges of slavery, which are the permit to travel. And she has entered into the court of Judge Sherry Patey, who is a municipal corporation court judge. She is one half of the of that branch. The other half is Judge Russell Bean. And Judge Patey has been given a petition this morning about Keelah Jackson. Keelah Jackson is too poor to pay court fines and costs, and is prevented from making a living by the fact that she's told she cannot use a car. You are forbidden to use a car to do anything. You must walk. You must take public transportation. You must beg for help. You could take maybe an electric scooter, bicycle, maybe a horse. You may do other things, but you may not use the most convenient and logical and reasonable free market device. That is to say, the personal property under the Uniform Commercial Code. A car is personal property, personal chattel, as it's called. You can't do that because we own the roads, and you cannot be on the roads apart from the master's permission. So here's a woman of color, and I want you to hear her tell you what she's about. Go to our Facebook page today. I know we are on the censored page, and this is a censored video. Okay, a censored 2-minute interview between me and a young woman named Keelah Jackson, and she's explained to you why she does not want to be enslaved anymore to the corporation of Chattanooga. So the question now before the corporation is, may she use the streets of the public freely? The option B, and the option A is, of course, the easy one for the judge is, could you please order the DOS in Nashville to grant her either a license or under the Judge Alita Trauger July 3 ruling, overturning a godless and wicked statute that has ended up depriving nearly a quarter of a million Tennesseans the so-called privilege of traveling by car, or the so-called privilege of driving. Driving is a privilege. Operating a car, operating a motor vehicle is indeed a privilege. And so the state controlling that function has said, if you're too poor to pay, we are going to, the court costs and fines in your traffic case, almost all these are all traffic cases, we are going to impose upon you a civil death sentence. So Keelah Jackson is under a civil death sentence pursuant to Dred Scott, the Dred Scott ruling that prohibited and banned and kept the institution of slavery. And she is effectively under the heavy, moldy hand, even today, of Roger Taney, the judge. The number is 800-8949, 800-8949. That's the studio line. Call me, David Toulis. Listen, I'm always available to chat. If you want to talk with me about something, please bend my ear. I'm here for you, my listener. Bend my ear. Keelah has in her petition, which when we look at the printing out of it, is 3 pages. It's 2.5 pages, and then there are some attachments. One of them is the following. It's called an affidavit of Keelah Jackson, and she says it's on her status as a private person. Now, I'd suggest that to you, my listener, that there's liberty in being aware of your status, right? Your status is preferable. I mean, it's preferable to have a status of being a private individual, a human being, of course, made in God's image, and every human being is lovely on that account. Even the ugliest woman, even the plainest, drawlest faced man is beautiful as he is made in God's image. Okay, so there really is no way you can say anybody's ugly, but in that sense, it's better to be a private person than someone who is privileged or a corporation. And this is David Toulis. What is on your mind, please?
I'm waiting for you to play Everything is Beautiful by Ray Stevens. Everything is beautiful. Jesus loves the little child. David, I love your show. I want to change the subject. Can I change the subject?
Sure, absolutely.
Blue skies today. And,
yes.
And what's going on with chemtrailing? You're like the chemtrail king.
Well,
I'd like you to update us on what's going on. Did Trump actually stop these international terrorists from poisoning our skies? And by the way, here's one of my questions regarding, and I'm having a debate over so-called climate change, the fraud, the Al Gore fraud of, global warming, and they figured out the Earth isn't warming, so now it's climate change. And the same scientists in the 70s said global cooling. But they believe in climate change because they drink the Kool-Aid, but they don't believe in chemtrails. Well, there's overwhelming evidence to show they're polluting the air. And let me tell you why. Because, see, climate change means if we believe in it, we have to create more regulations for business. We have to strap American business. We have to make sure they pay economically,
and strip
while China and Russia gets away with it.
Right, and strip the demographic of humankind. You want to have fewer people. The most committed ideologues in the environmental side, Mike, want to reduce by billions of people the population of a hugely underpopulated planet. We have more than 7 billion people, but we're vastly underpopulated as a planet. And we need many more people than we have.
Where did you get this idea of being anti-government? Well, I'm not anti-government. Our Constitution is government. I'm anti-liar. And you know where it came, David? It came two ways. And I wasn't raised in a religious household. Do you want to hear where I came up with the idea that government almost always lies, and people within the system in control of your money and regulation almost always lie? Do you know when I figured that out?
No, tell me.
In 7th grade, when they promoted the idea of evolution to the point where man came from a monkey. And then I said, where is your evidence? Because yesterday, you were talking about a hypothesis creating experiments to determine facts. And they couldn't produce evidence. So I'm thinking, now maybe we're dealing with liars here. And then in 1980, I was probably 18, 19. For the first time, I crossed west of the Mississippi and for 2 hours drove without seeing another car. Where in school in the 50s and 60s, I was lied to by being told America is overpopulated. Being lied to. They started the lies way before the 1970s. So, Americans have got to stop drinking the Kool-Aid and realize that everything that comes out of the media, 99%, except for your radio station, is a bunch of lies. The government lies, government officials lie, the media, they're all a bunch of liars to promote an agenda that gives them the power and we, the people, nothing. And unfortunately, people that happen to be socialists buy it. If we want to do good for people, well, we believe global warming. Well, we don't believe there's any chemtrails. Oh, the FBI would never do that then. No, we don't believe that. What is wrong with America? Have we been that dumbed down with no evidence?
Well, I think, Michael, on the question of skystriping, to get back to what you were saying earlier, yes, I believe that under President Trump, and my record, which I just, by the way, if you're a listener and you want to get on my show, I always carry with me my red calendar. And in my red calendar, I mark every day there's a chemtrail day, or I call it skystriping day. And the numbers of skystriping days are down sharply. And I must say that it's fallen off so much that I sometimes don't mark a day as a skystripe day when maybe I should. And those are days when maybe I see just one or two. But ordinarily, skystripe days are intensely covered, but those days are many fewer and far between. And is Trump directly responsible? Probably.
I told you, David,
I'd say indirectly responsible.
Than he says he knows, or he makes out.
Yeah, he knows what happened on 9/11, but he won't tell all because there are lives at stake. So he's not going to say anything.
Knock him off. But I noticed back in 2000, because I'm a private pilot, I looked up and I'm looking, going, that doesn't look like a contrail. I was just noticing. I'm looking up, going, that's really weird. And then I saw planes start streaking across the sky. I'm like, what the heck's going on here? I went on the computer. This is back in 2000, and I started to research it a little bit. Then I met people and talked to people in confidence that admitted that they are purposely polluting the air with coal ash or some sort of toxins to reflect the sun because of global warming.
Well, listen, I want to get back to that, but I wanted just to mention just quickly about Keelah Jackson. We got more to say about skystriping, and the news is good. There's much less of it. The air is definitely cleaner. And Mike Steele is saying, hey, look, the sky is blue many more days than not, and the haze is gone. The haze is gone. The sun is beaming down, which means you're getting all the parts of the sun, which means also, I was going to get back to Keelah Jackson. My time is running out. I've got some great announcements for y'all to hear here on the David Tully Show. It's 800-8949. That's 800-8949. And make sure you download the Next Radio app, and you can hear our station on the actual signal, not streaming now, but the actual signal on your phone. just download the Next Radio app and type in Nuga, just Nuga, and that will bring us up. But Keelah Jackson has an affidavit. I wanted to mention to you before I was interrupted by someone maybe more important than Mike, or maybe a bit less, about her status as a private person. And there I'm being told, listen, you, my listener, have got some things to hear about our marketplace, the Nuga Radio marketplace, whether it's a new route or the event today at Indian Motorcycle and Crockett Powersport, the pre-ride rally, the Trail of Tears pre-ride rally. That is today at this afternoon. David Toulis, and come right back. I've got some more.
3, 2, 1.
Chattanooga Radio, Digital FM 95.3 HD4, 92.7 FM's news now.
A special thanks to our brave first responders working through some terrible conditions. This includes Tennessee linemen ready for action as Florence slams the coast. Close to 200 elect linemen from across the state of Tennessee are on their way to the coast. The various municipalities involved include Athens, Murfreesboro, and Tullahoma. Airbnb offering short-term vacation rentals for free to evacuees through its Open Homes program. The offer will end October 1st. If you're visiting from an affected area, just check your app. And a judge this week denied a death row inmate's efforts to block his October 11th execution by reviving a federal lawsuit. The move brings added urgency to a separate lethal injection challenge pending with the Tennessee Supreme Court, reports the Tennessean. Edmund Zagorski set to be executed. He's convicted of shooting and slitting the throats of his victims in Robertson County. Val St. John for Nuga Radio, News Talk 92.7, Action News now.
Sean Hannity, weekday afternoons from 3 to 6 p.m. on Nuga Radio 92.7 FM.
Nuga Radio 92.7.
Get 8.1% on your money, guaranteed in writing. That's right. Get 8.1% return on your money at Rick Davis Gold and Diamonds. American Gold Eagle Bullion will return you 8.1% on your money. That's right. Get 8.1% return on your money at Rick Davis Gold and Diamonds. American Gold Eagle Bullion will return you 8.1% on your money at Rick Davis Gold and Diamonds, Brainerd Road, Chattanooga.
Let's face it, Old Faithful isn't as faithful as it used to be. Constant repairs are a hassle and can rack up quick in money and time. Landers McClarty Ford can fix that. Right now, you can get a 2016 Ford Focus, 34,000 miles, only $11,491. A 2017 Chevy Spark with only 17,000 miles for less than $12,000. A 2015 Volkswagen Jetta with less than 21,000 miles for $11,991. Yeah, browse their entire inventory of new and new-to-you cars, trucks, and SUVs online at Landers McCarty Ford at FortPayne.com. Landers McClarty Ford of Fort Payne. If you can't find your next perfect ride, they'll go find it for you. Big city selection, small town prices, friendly service, and top dollar for your trade. The savings are waiting and only a short drive away, so what are you waiting for? Get started with your personalized shopping today at Landers McClarty Ford of FortPayne.com.
Join Keon Rose and Nick LaFew this Friday night with the Amco Transmission and Total Car Care High School Football Game of the Week. This Friday night's the Battle of the Battlefield Parkway between Ringgold and Lakeview Fort Oglethorpe. But join me, Sam Jordan, for the 101 Personal Training Countdown to Kickoff beginning at 7:05 p.m. And then join in for the 5th quarter show till 11 p.m. That's Ringgold versus Lakeview Fort Oglethorpe beginning at 7:05 p.m. with a Countdown to Kickoff on Nuga Radio 92.7 FM.
Join Nuga Radio and the Gridiron Gang live from 7 to 9 at Starbucks at 10 North on the North Shore. We're talking all things high school football. There's a specialty brew or refresher weekly inspired by the game of the week. Sweet treats, extended hours all season long, and we're pet friendly. Portions of all proceeds support local schools and educational scholarships as well as after-school programs. It's football time in Tennessee. Join us every Thursday live from 7 to 9 at Starbucks, 10 North, your North Shore neighborhood living room.
Your home is a constant work in progress. Repaint the walls? Yeah, easy enough. Leaky faucet? There's a video for that. But roof repair? You might want some help. That's where Chattanooga Roofing Contractors come in. They have 3 generations of roofing excellence you can count on. Leave the ladder in the garage. Go to chatroofing.com. That's chatroofing.com for Chattanooga Roofing Contractors, a roofing company you can trust. Man, you sure you know what you're doing?
Yeah, I worked with my dad on his truck all the time. Just one more bolt to go.
Yeah, wrong bolt. Today's truck ain't your daddy's truck. For repairs on today's vehicles, you need Amco Transmission and Total Car Care of Chattanooga on Lee Highway. Stay on the road, not in the garage. Amco Transmission on Lee Highway. Get it done the right way. The Thompson Pet way. Yeah, I just put that anywhere.
Join We've Got You Covered with Scott Schrader every Saturday from 10 to 11 on Nuga Radio. From finance to fixtures, we discuss everything you need to know about buying or owning a home, the pitfalls, the perks, and everything in between. Saturday mornings, 10 to 11, right here on Nuga Radio.
Nuga Radio, Chattanooga weather.
It's been lots of sunshine and hot weather out there for your afternoon. Highs 90 to 92. Tonight, fair, warm, muggy. Lows only 70 to 72. For Saturday, mostly sunny, continued hot. Highs near 90 with more clouds, a few passing showers possible Sunday. Glass Farm Nursery is now open with a big selection of trees and shrubs for fall planting, as well as first quality 8-inch mums. Open daily, closed Sundays. That's Glass Farm, Highway 11, 4 miles south of Trenton. And I'm Sortine 12 Chief Meteorologist Patrick 4.
Nuga Radio 92.7.
Now, the smartest guy with a bow tie in Chattanooga, Tennessee, David Toulis.
Yesterday, Citizen Toulis, David Toulis, that's me, attended as a private person, as a citizen, not necessarily as a member of the media, though I'm never quite not a member of the press, as I like to say. I attended the Citizens Police Academy put on by the Chattanooga Police Department. It took place in the training center, which is on the right, the building on the right side across the street from the main police compound, the double building, one part containing the police department proper on the left, and then on the right, the 911 center, a building done in the internationalist style, very popular style in the East Block, by the way. And the evening was I'd say fulfilling and satisfying, though it's possible to suggest that the time might have been better used, a 2-hour get together that was really compressible into an hour. But I think for it to be an academy, you really want the time to be more than just 1 hour a night. That's not really enough time. It's the connection does not go as deep. The humanity rubbing against humanity, if you will, not sufficient to be 1 hour a week. So really 2 hours a week is really proper, and it could even go, assuming there was enough material that it'd be 2.5 hours. Though I think 6 to 8 is a good time. And I want to I just want to ask you what you think we should be thinking in this direction of the police and the people. There are some things to note about the change in the relationship between the police and the public, and the one important change brought by technology, by the power of decentralization that strengthens and fortifies and makes much of the individual. So we have a restoration of the earlier, the prospect of the earlier American individualism, which was very strong in the colonial era, impressively strong in the 1830s and 40s when Alexis de Tocqueville toured the country seeking to model the French prison system after hours, which was a mistake. But he was here as a kind of a free market conservative, and noted this American characteristic. One thing about the Americans that he noticed was that there were no police, there were no officers anywhere, and the function, what we call policing today, was a common function, and it belonged to every man individually, and we were largely a common law society. And with the passing of the war, we became industrialized and more corporate as a culture. And eventually we become a culture no longer really of individuals, but really of institutions. We don't have individuals anymore. Individual genius is held in low regard and is trained out of people by schools, right? The public school industry. And so we have a professionalization of this function of keeping the peace, and it's changed of course, long ago, it has become law enforcement. The function is not peacekeeping. It is not relational. It is not common law. It is not shared. It is delegated, right? So you don't keep the peace. You, my listener, don't keep the peace, though you may carry a gun on your person. You may have a gun in your car. And we rely on experts and professionals, not just in keeping the peace, but also now in this new category of state-oriented, pro-state, pro-government activity called law enforcement. Law enforcement is effectively the state's war against the people. In every state, Tennessee included, an organization called the State of Tennessee, definitionally, conceptually, philosophically, and even in terms of the religious underpinnings of the state of Tennessee, it is a warfare against the people. Even though, if you read the paper, you think, well, that's just absurd. That's an absurd suggestion. Look at all the good things. We have our free colleges. We have the governor talking about roads and improving life in Tennessee and so on. Maybe so. That's politics, which is a kind of marketing for the state. And there is an effective war against the state, by the state, against its own people. And it's inevitable whenever you have a corporate structure. You might say a Republican structure, though I know if I say that, Mike Steele will be very angry at me, because he points out that in our Constitution, we have a promise and a guarantee of Republican government, which means non-unitary government, divided, federalized federal government. Federal means simply government by covenant. Now, I mentioned this sort of as just to kind of, because I feel like I have to say these things first, as opposed to just giving you my report, the citizens report about the Citizens and Police Academy. But I think if you can understand why these things are in my mind and how they kind of affect how I see things, these understandings make me see things and allow you to see things, but also you could say prevent me from seeing other things, right? And prevent me from believing other things, if you will. This morning I was in front of city court, and even went into the city court clerk's office or chamber, if you will, neon lit room where women sat around at desks and stood about and handled the affairs of the corporation's judicial branch. Right, the city court is the city's judge, where the city's judges are. And I was there with a young woman named Keelah Jackson, who is defying the claims of Dred Scott, the Justice Roger Taney ruling, which said blacks cannot be free; they must remain enslaved permanently as chattel, right, as private property. And Keelah Jackson, if you go to Facebook, you'll see her explanation of why she was there. It is really a remarkable understanding that she has about her servitude. She remains under the hand of Roger Taney today, and the city corporation is responsible for this problem. And of course, you haven't seen that, and you don't know what I'm talking about. But here's what she's trying to say. She's saying, "Look, I have to be able to get out of poverty," and part of her analysis, part of her argument in her petition to Judge Sherry Patey is on the basis of her status as a private person. And she says, "At no time have I operated in a commercial capacity on the roads of Tennessee, nor in any other state, nor driven or operated a motor vehicle carrying people or goods for hire." And then she says, "On the date of my encounter with the City of Chattanooga police officer, I was in a car for private purposes, private necessity, and personal/family duties, and the exercise of my various constitutional rights, and I deny any presumption that I was operating in commercial, for-profit, or for-hire capacity. Further, affiant saith not." So she's making two statements about private use. She's saying that she was not involved when she got ticketed and became impoverished on account of this event in 2014. So 4 years now in poverty because she can't get around. She has to take the bus. I mean, here's this woman, young woman, waiting in inclement weather for the bus. Voyeurs, she had mentioned in an earlier petition, can walk after her stalker. She's dependent on public transportation, which is sketchy. Right? Even though we have a money-losing bus system, CARTA, that would collapse in a couple of weeks if it did not have subventions or subsidies by the good people, right, in Washington. She's on that bus, or she has to walk, relying on people for favors, right? This is her poverty, this young woman. a woman, as it turns out to be, of color, belonging to a race. She says that half of the adult members of the black race, she says, and I've had other people confirm this, do not have licenses or do not have licenses that are in proper order. They are either revoked, suspended, or expired. And so many people who are African American feel the heavy hand of Dred Scott even today. And that's my concern, is to, as a repentant Christian, sorry for the role of the Christian church in maintaining slavery from the 1600s through the 1850s and 60s and beyond. I mean, even in our day, people with whom I formerly sympathized have defended some of the biblical arguments used to maintain that system. And I'm sorry for my sins in not having recognized these problems earlier. But I'm sorry for my misunderstanding of the scripture, and my not reading it faithfully and carefully to know upon what I should be angry and upon what I should be approving. So, what I mean is I read R.L. Dabney with favor. Okay, I've read Defense of Virginia and the South with favor. Okay, so there you go. Those are my influences in the past, which I have changed my mind. So anyway, I'm trying to understand Keelah Jackson's problem, and she is coming upon the solution for her problem, which is this petition. So make sure you go to our Facebook page, and I think you should subscribe to Nuganomics.com, and the number is 800-8949, 800-8949 to get on the program. Call me with a question. Call me with a problem. 800-8949. Now, the Police Academy is an effort to bridge the gap that Keelah Jackson, if she's in the car behind the wheel, she's in fear of the people in blue. They've already impoverished her, the Chattanooga Police Department. She is in poverty and misery on account of an arrest under the transportation statute against her. She was in a car in which the man behind the wheel was violently throwing up in transit. She took the wheel. Then there was a traffic stop. So she has all these charges upon her and has not been able to pay the fine, too poor to pay the fines and fees and court costs. And maybe we can help her. And I'm thinking, well, maybe we should have a crowdsourcing fundraiser for Keelah Jackson, so she can just pay off the predators, the vultures from the police department and the court system circling her. And she has nothing to feed them to keep them away. So she needs to get rid of them, pay them off, bribe them, and then get back to being able to get around in her car. Now, the event last night was led by a Sergeant Wayne Jefferson, and he has a discussion. I think the main reason this Citizens Academy is held is to bridge the gap. That is part of the concept, part of the reason that it's held. You are the eyes of the police. You all see more than we'll ever see. He wants community and the police department to work together. Now, we are bridging the gap, he said. That's what the Academy's purpose is, to bridge the gap. Well, there is a gap, and it's widening. Now, we can talk about why it's widening. There are reasons it's widening, and greater understanding, and the fact that you report and the world decides, which is our motto here at 92.7. You report and the world decides. You, with your smartphone, you are, in fact, a publisher. We're all publishers. And now it's harder to hide abuses, the secrets of police abuse, routine police abuse, often with a strong racial tinge, anti-Negro, anti-Black, anti-African-American. For decades, it has been that way. If you're Black and young, know that you're going to have multiple encounters with police, especially if you are with a friend in a car. You are certain to be stopped and harassed. These things are continuing today. And so there is this gap. And so you have the practice, which causes the gap, and then you have the knowledge of how widespread it is, which makes the gap, and the people who are feeling the gap realize, well, hey, I'm not the only one who feels this way. Everybody else I know seems to have had the same kind of experience. The Citizen Police Academy idea is to trying to change the culture. That's a big order. for an event that had about 55 people or so signed up. There were in the 30s as far as the number of people attending, including me, David Toulis, the citizen, the common man, right? 32 people or 31 people plus David Toulis kind of on the edge there. David Toulis always on the outside looking in, right? And the gap is the Sergeant Wayne Jefferson said comes partly. He said, well, this is maybe a lesser reason, but it did kind of stand out in his presentation that there are technical reasons for the gap, namely the car, the radios, the gizmos, the databases, and now, of course, we have sort of predictive policing software that also creates its own probable cause problems. But the connection to the car and the auto-centric nature of policing means that police officers and people do not get together. They're not relational. They're not sociable. And Sergeant Jefferson said, well, there's a kind of depersonalization, effectively, of the trade of policing. It's not personal anymore. It used to be that the officer had a connection to a neighborhood, knew everybody in it, and was able to, like a good neighbor, replicate the earlier work that the common man had done. That would be solve crimes. If there's an abuse or a theft or a robbery, well, the people of the neighborhood figured it out, more or less. Now, the loss of esteem is continuing, right? It continues. Ferguson was a huge drop, you might say, in the share value of policing, just like Obergefell versus Hodges, the court case for gay rights. It occurred about a half a year after gay shares began falling, right? Gay shares are continuing in decline. The whole cause seems to be vaporizing as the queerization of society. It ends up, and eventually there will be nothing left. Gays will be in the closet again. They'll be hiding, sodomy and acts like that, or private acts, and they're not really prosecutable. And there is no celebration at some point of this lifestyle of life. So shares go up and down, right? Gay shares are down. They were in the ascendancy for several years prior to that peak, and they started going down before Obergefell became so-called law. Gay shares are down, and police shares are down too. They're down, and they're going to continue plunging in the social equity markets, you could say. In fact, it's so bad that we heard last night that though there are 3 academies a year in Chattanooga, the last one had just 12 people graduating. And of course, the perspective of Sergeant Jefferson is, well, we have only 500 sworn officers in Chattanooga. When I hear that, I just cringe, because we have, oh my goodness, we have 500 sworn police officers in Chattanooga. I mean, what's wrong with us? Why do we need that many? The perspective, of course, is just the reverse of his. He mentioned with praise, I think he said, a city in China which had hundreds of thousands of policemen, as if somehow that the more police you have, the better things are, the more civil you are. Now, one reason people don't want to join, he said, is that police get shot. The Dallas uproar, where a very angry man had a semi-automatic rifle and was shooting at officers, and was eventually shot dead, though I think probably he could have been spared. And there's also, I had some question about the numbers. Now, the citizens were told that there were 707 police-involved killings or police-involved shootings in the most recent year. Data was available from the Washington Post. When I went to the same website, Washington Post, 2017, it was 978. So we have a 280 soul difference in the number of people killed. And I think it needs to be important to say that officer-involved shooting is a euphemism, okay? What you're saying is that a cop has killed a human being. That's what's happened. To call it officer-involved, it neutralizes the agency. It makes it seem somehow that, well, there were 2 sides to this, and one side somehow maybe deserved to get shot. And so it's not officer killing of a person. It's not an officer. It's not a citizen killing by a cop. Okay, that's putting it too bluntly. No, we don't want to say it that way. We want to say officer involved. In other words, it softens and muffles the echo of the round in the alleyway there, where that that young black man with a bullet or 2 or 3 in his back is writhing next to some garbage cans down near the projects. So I'm not sure where the numbers come from. Is there a racial disparity? Well, that of course is a matter of concern too. When you have a white officer arresting a black person, it just seems like a racist activity. Well, yes, and it wasn't mentioned last night, but policing, especially in the South, according to Joel McDermott in his book, The Problem of Slavery in Christian America, is that policing is slave catching. That's where police came from, the slave catching organizations that all got rewards for capturing slaves and using black people, terrorizing black people to surrender black slaves, either rewarding them or stopping abusing them to get information for capture of runaways. Remember, in the radically libertarian and radically free Hebrew Republic, back as described by Moses and written up in the book of Joshua and the Old Testament, whenever Israel was faithful, it was so free that people came from all around to live there. Israel was so incredibly free and prosperous that people just came to live. Whether you were Hittite, Hivite, Jebusite, there were all kinds of people who became part of that nation and people. And when they repented and believed in God and were circumcised, they were eventually, except for a couple of different tribes, part of the people of Israel. Uriah the Hittite was not. He was from a race destined to be destroyed by the Israelites, and yet he was there. It was a free country, and guess what? Slaves were allowed and were protected. If you fled slavery somewhere else and you came to Israel, you were free. Kidnapping was a capital offense. You could not have in old Israel a kidnapping about to be a capital offense. That means that what we have today with false arrest by police, you wouldn't have it. It simply would not happen because it would be a capital offense to kidnap someone or falsely arrest someone on a pretext. And that we have that all the time in the video world. David Toulis, Nigga Radio.
3, 2, 1.
Chattanooga Radio. Digital FM 95.3 HD4. 92.7 FM's news now.
A special thanks to our brave first responders working through some terrible conditions. This includes Tennessee linemen ready for action as Florence slams the coast. Close to 200 elected linemen from across the state of Tennessee are on their way to the coast. The various municipalities involved include Athens, Murfreesboro, and Tullahoma. Airbnb offering short-term vacation rentals for free to evacuees through its Open Homes program. The offer will end October 1st. If you're visiting from an affected area, just check your app. And a judge this week denied a death row inmate's efforts to block his October 11th execution by reviving a federal lawsuit. The move brings added urgency to a separate lethal injection challenge pending with the Tennessee Supreme Court, reports the Tennessean. Edmund Zagorski set to be executed. He's convicted of shooting and slitting the throats of his victims in Robertson County. Val St. John for Nuga Radio, News Talk 92.7, Action News now.
Sean Hannity, weekday afternoons from 3 to 6 p.m. on Nuga Radio 92.7 FM.
Nuga Radio 92.7. Nuga Radio, Chattanooga weather.
We spent lots of sunshine and hot weather out there for your afternoon. Highs 90 to 92. Tonight, fair, warm, muggy. Lows only 70 to 72. For Saturday, mostly sunny. Continued hot. Highs near 90 with more clouds. A few passing showers possible Sunday. Glass Farm Nursery is now open with a big selection of trees and shrubs for fall planting, as well as first quality 8-inch mums. Open daily, closed Sundays. That's Glass Farm Highway 11, 4 miles south of Trenton. And I'm Sorgene 12, Chief Meteorologist, Patcher 4.
Nuga Radio 92.7.
My ex recently hacked my email and my social media, and it really caused me some problems. I changed all my passwords, which helped, but I'm still getting trolled, maybe even stalked. I know it's him. I just can't prove it.
My business, well, it's been broken into twice already. I've got cameras, but that only helps after the fact. I'd rather prevent it from happening in the first place.
Unity One East is your solution to these and many other security concerns. With private investigation, security services, and backed by decades of real-life experience in military and law enforcement, Unity One East is your instant contact for security, investigation, and consultation to help protect you, your family, and your business. business. No 1-800 number, no red tape, no wait, because Unity One East is local and available 24/7. Reclaim your peace of mind. Call Unity One East, 475-6206, 475-6206.
Call 423-875-3600 if you're looking to expand your professional look of your business. Then consider the vast opportunities that are available when you locate your office with the Raines Group family. Remember, it's location, location, location. And the Raines Group has the location for your professional office. Check out the spaces for lease at Executive Business Park on the Lee Highway. Small or large, we will be able to suit your needs with the Raines Group. Call 423-875-3600 for the business professionals with the Raines Group.
Hey, dude, check this out. Have you ever seen one so big?
Whoa, look at the size of that.
Look at this little itty-bitty one.
Wow, that's really small.
They have them big, small, and everything in between. You'll always find the biggest variety of knives at the knife shop at Frost Cutlery in Ottawa. We're talking about over 40 brands of knives, including Benchmade, WR Case & Sons, Booker, and all the Frost Cutlery brands. Now, Sam, you've been to the cutlery shop. Is it amazing?
Spectacular. The knife shop at Frost Cutlery in Ottawa. They have knives, swords, kitchen knives, ammo, and reloading supplies, plus survival gear.
It's the knife shop at Frost Cutlery, open 7 days a week. Hey, girls, you're going to love this. We're going to the knife shop. Hey, let's not tell them they have ammo and loading supplies. The knife shop at Frost Cutlery, open 7 days a week. You'll always find the biggest variety of knives. You're going to love the knife shop at Frost Cutlery in Ottawa. The knife shop.
And tell them David Toulis sent you.
Nuga Radio.
Are you brain dead? Still voting for pathetic liberals? Take 3 hours of Sean Hannity. WPLZ HD4 Ottawa. W224AZ Chattanooga.
Serving Chattanooga.
Broadcasting live from the center of the universe. The Tennessee Valley's most listened to news talk station.
Nuga Radio 92.7.
This is CBS News on the Hour, sponsored by ZipRecruiter.
I'm Jim Shenavi. Hurricane Florence made landfall this morning in North Carolina as a Category 1 storm. It's now pushing its way south along the coastline before an expected turn inland. Correspondent David Begnaud.
The water appears to be trying to wash away a dock behind me. We are at a yacht club here in Beaufort, North Carolina. Winds have been gusting within the last 6 hours at nearly 90 miles per hour. The storm surge has hit close to 4.5 feet. They have set a water level record here within the last 12 hours.
Correspondent Don Daler is in Myrtle Beach.
When this storm either moves north of us or comes over us, that's when the storm surge could actually affect this area with considerable flooding. But right now, we're not seeing much flooding. We're just getting drenched and getting battered by these winds.
And for most, this will be a water event.
Very slow progression to the west. Here's the problem. The slower the center moves, the longer we keep these rain bands in check.
Hurricane Center forecaster Ken Graham.
The flash flooding threat is not over. We're going to have to go into the weekend with this, and it become dangerous. You know, some of the river flooding could last a week.
And North Carolina Governor Roy Cooper.
Right now, we have about 500,000 North Carolinians without power, concentrated in Carteret, Onslow, Craven, Pender, New Hanover, and Brunswick counties. That number is rising even as we speak.
Manafort cops a plea. Former Trump campaign chairman Paul Manafort pleading guilty to 2 criminal counts today. He'll cooperate with a Mueller Russia probe. CBS's Paula Reed.
This is quite a surprise to many of us here at the courthouse because I have been told consistently that Paul Manafort was banking on a pardon. He was willing to fight all of these charges, not cooperate at all in exchange for a pardon if and when he was convicted. But today, not only is he pleading guilty to those charges, but he has agreed to share some information, some of what he knows, with special counsel in exchange for leniency.
Natural gas has been turned off to thousands of homes in suburban Boston where gas explosions rocked homes and destroyed some of them yesterday. At least 1 person died, some 24 injured. NTSB Chairman Robert Sumwalt.
We'll look at the emergency response. We'll look at the system safety program of the pipeline operator. So this will be a multidisciplinary investigation. We'll be looking at a number of things.
Columbia Gas had said it would be upgrading gas lines in the area. Some 10,000 residents of Honolulu have been told they may need to evacuate because water levels in a nearby dam have risen to dangerous levels following the rains of Tropical Storm Olivia. Workers have been siphoning water away from that dam and pumping water out in an attempt to bring the levels down. On Wall Street, the Dow is down 20 points. This is CBS News.
ZipRecruiter, the smartest way to hire. ZipRecruiter's technology finds qualified candidates for businesses of all sizes. Try it for free at ZipRecruiter.com/free.
Oh, bud, I heard these guys live once.
How was it?
It was way more like this!
This is awesome!
Give them a concert experience they'll never forget and save on the ticket. Buy 2 boxes of participating Big G cereals like Cinnamon Toast Crunch, Honey Nut Cheerios, or Lucky Charms for a $10 Ticketmaster ticket cash code.
Hey, how about tickets to the game Sunday?
Seriously?
Must be 13 years or older. Redeem impact code by 10/27/18. Exclusions apply. Visit Ticketmaster.com/General Mills Cereal for full terms and conditions.
Hi, it's Patty LaBelle. You've seen me cooking in my kitchen on TV. I know you have. I'm as comfortable making sweet desserts in my kitchen as I am making sweet music. And when I make my delicious treats, there's only one egg that's good enough for me and my family. Eggland's Best. With 6 times more vitamin D, 10 times more vitamin E, 25% less saturated fat than ordinary eggs. And better taste. It doesn't get any better than the best. Eggland's Best.
How do you know when a hurricane is really bad? Well, the Waffle House closes.
Landfall as a Category 1 hurricane, but where does it fall on the Waffle House Index?
Retro Man here at the Waffle House.
The former director of FEMA, Craig Fugate, came up with the index in 2004. The breakfast chain in the South is usually open 24 hours a day. So when it remains closed after a disaster, it's bad, red on the index. If it's open with a limited menu, that's yellow. And fully functioning restaurants means it's a green. And that storm wasn't so bad. Wendy Gillette, CBS News.
19-year-old Jonathan Taylor of Kansas City, Missouri, faces animal abuse charges. He made the mistake of posting a video on Snapchat of him drop kicking a cat like a football on the Central High School football field. A voice then proclaims field goal. The cat was later found dead. Jim Chenevy, CBS News.
Let's think about customization presented by
3, 2, 1.
Chattanooga Radio. Digital FM 95.3 HD4. 92.7 FM's news now.
TSA inspectors say they found a loaded gun in a man's carry-on bag. The Chattanooga airport said they uncovered a loaded handgun. It was a .22 Magnum pistol. The TSA immediately alerted airport police, who took possession of the bag and escorted the passenger out of the checkpoint area. It is legal to fly domestically with a handgun, but it has to be in checked baggage. 2 Rossville businesses were hit by vandals with BB guns. Larry Rose, the owner of Rose Kawasaki, said he heard a loud noise and looked up to see holes in his glass window. A business owner nearby said the same thing happened to him. Witnesses spotted an SUV speed away. Police believe the culprit's a teenager. A homeowner in North Chattanooga said he caught a thief on his front porch camera, walking up to his stoop, grabbing an Amazon package, and running away. Police trying to track him down. The Sean Hannity Show, weekdays 3 to 6. Russell Stroud, Chattanooga Radio News Talk 92.7 Action News now.
Chattanooga weather.
It's been lots of sunshine and hot weather out there for your afternoon. Highs 90 to 92. Tonight, fair, warm, muggy. Lows only 70 to 72. For Saturday, mostly sunny, continued hot. Highs near 90 with more clouds, a few passing showers possible Sunday. Glass Farm Nursery is now open with a big selection of trees and shrubs for fall planting, as well as first quality 8-inch mums. Open daily, closed Sundays. That's Glass Farm Highway 11, 4 miles south of Trenton. And I'm Sorgene 12, Chief Meteorologist, Patcher 4.
Radio 92.7.
You hear that? That's the sound of power. The call of the open road. That is the newly designed 2019 Indian Chieftain Limited. Yeah, Indian. More than a bike, it's an experience and an American icon. And the place to find it, Indian Motorcycle of Chattanooga, along with their entire new 2019 line. Ready to answer that call? Go to Indian Motorcycle of Chattanooga. Just look for the sign on 153 and Amnicola. Indian Motorcycle, the true American original.
Join We've Got You Covered with Scott Schrader every Saturday from 10 to 11 on Nooga Radio. From finance to fixtures, we discuss everything you need to know about buying or owning a home, the pitfalls, the perks, and everything in between. Saturday mornings, 10 to 11, right here on Nooga Radio.
If you want to discover the real hope for your life through inspirational music, relevant messages, and testimonies from others who have already found hope, then we encourage you to visit the 2nd annual My Hope Conference, October 7th through 9th at Hickson First Baptist Church. Free admission and childcare is provided for kids up to pre-K, while those in kindergarten through 5th grade will attend the Kids Hope Rally. For more info, visit myhopeconference.com or call Hickson First Baptist Church at 423-877-2467.
Now, the smartest guy with a bow tie in Chattanooga, Tennessee, David Toulis.
Christian Bird and I are citizens. We are resident here in Chattanooga, and we took part last night in the first iteration of the most recent, the newest Police Citizens Academy, or the Citizens Police Academy, that took place in the Internationalist style building next to the Police Command Center in the compound. This was at the Fire and Police Training Center in one of the large classrooms. It was a couple hours long, an event overseen by Sergeant Wayne Jefferson, a former public information officer with the department, and I think he just had enough trouble dealing with the press and being kind of in PR and sort of being in the spotlight that he elected to go back to being just a regular officer. The event serves several purposes. For me, the event is to understand policing better, since I have a lot to say about it and do some reading on my own about it and have an interest in law. And also that way I can meet officers and have contacts in the department. That's another purpose. And also to humanize my reporting about these members of Mayor Andy Burke's department. They serve the mayor and are part of the executive function of the city, but also they serve largely, in larger context, the federal national executive function and the state of Tennessee executive function as well, which again is away from and against common law rights, and I would say even a godly social order. Police are part of the other side, right? They're the argument against Christianity from sort of arbitrary, monarchical, absolutist, humanistic perspective. So that there is this background story, but of course at the event last night, none of that comes into view directly. But I want to ask Christian about it. He's a man who's 26 years old, born in Chattanooga, the oldest of 3 children, and has worked now 7 years under a judge. His name is Johnny Houston. Is an attorney. Johnny Houston used to be noted for his motorcycle defense line of practice, but has been a city court judge every Monday afternoon in the town of Red Bank. The review sessions at 1:30, traffic is at 2, and the criminal docket is at 3. So, Christian, you graduated from high school at Red Bank High School in 2011. How is it that you have become an assistant? Well, I guess we want to know maybe first, what is an assistant in city court? What do you do in the court? Very busy courtroom, loud and crowded courtroom, that one.
Well, David, that's a good question. I was like, I just hand out the tickets to the clerk and make copies for the judge, and that's about it. As far as I'm.
So you're when I've been in court, I was following the Alan DeBerry case in which, as I reported, the police department of Red Bank caused a riot at a venue and scattered more than 100 black college students into the night in a kind of attack, you might say, a kind of a wild and violent attack by that department against these students, 4 of whom were arrested. Alan DeBerry, I covered his story, and I saw going to those hearings, at least 2 now. You were a busy man. You were coming and going. Tell me just a little bit about, or tell my listener a little bit about Christian Bird, about this court. It's very crowded, noisy, and busy. Can you set the scene somehow and say a little bit more about what you do?
Yes, I just hand out the tickets to the clerk and make copies, and that's pretty much what I do. I mean, I go back and forth, and I always want to be in law enforcement, so they hired me, and so let me be close to like legal stuff.
Okay, close to legal stuff and close to police officers, right? Because
Yes.
there are always officers from the Red Bank Police Department standing about with their guns and their tasers and their armor and the heavy waist, their heavy waists of belts and all important work that officers do, right? So you're kind of in an exciting context.
Yes.
Is that why you are taking part in the Citizens Police Academy?
Yes, that's it. That is a part of it, and I like to learn a little bit more about it. And to me, it's not like about race or nothing and all that. So I want to.
Well, what do you mean by that? What do you mean?
I want to change it. If I want to be in law enforcement, I want to try to make the people understand we're not the bad guys. I mean, we're trying to help them.
And now you say you mentioned the race question, and
Yes,
and let's just mention here Wayne Jefferson, Sergeant Wayne Jefferson said that yesterday there's a racial disparity. He said that 74% of the cops are white, and 11% are black, and 5% are Hispanic. Now, are you saying something about your race, and you're wanting to change those numbers somehow?
Yes, that's correct. I mean, like, I want to like make everybody aware it's not about like white, black, or Hispanic or any kind of race. I mean, I want to show people like we are good people and we're trying to protect and serve. So,
and that is how Sergeant Jefferson ended his interview with me. He said, "Well, we are just trying to show that we are human." Somehow, there's that's seems like an elemental statement. Well, it's like having a meeting of accountants, and then the accountant saying at the end, "Well, we're having these meetings with the public to show that we're human," or we have people who are involved in web design and saying, "Well, we're having this outreach because we're trying to show other people that we are human." That's a kind of an unusual thing to have to say. A very basic and elemental claim that we're souls with bodies, as C.S. Lewis says. A human being is a soul with a body. We're just like you, the citizen, right?
Yes. That's correct. I mean, like, we are just like them. You know, we wear a uniform and a badge doesn't mean like we're human. We just like you.
Well, tell my listener, since you seem to follow policing pretty closely and would like to be a police officer, Christian, age 26, what's the problem? What has happened?
The problem is our community is just like set for like they see stuff on television and they don't get the whole story was about like for law enforcement. We go day to day and trying to protect y'all. I mean, like.
Well, hold on. I'm going to ask you if you're mistaken here. Yes. It seems like police on television are almost always heroic. The officers, in the end, the good guys win. The bad guys are caught. Corrupt cops are put down. Murderers, terrorists, and gang members are eventually rounded up. Their sins catch up with them. The police are there. It seems like most on television, anyway, that the officer, that policing is good. It seems like there's an extraordinary amount of humanizing already, just in media, and yet still there seems to be a loss of ground in the policing profession in society. Well, how do you account for that?
Yeah, we do have some bad like law enforcement. Don't get me wrong. I mean, the behavior's pretty bad. I mean, like, but I don't really pay attention about that. I think about the positive, and hopefully we get through wherever we have to do.
So on your Facebook feed, if you have one, you don't see a lot of videos that have one more cop shooting some defenseless child for bumping into him. You don't see videos like that, or
I'm pretty sure I will see that kind of work. I mean, yes, I will probably see that.
Well, I think in our encounter yesterday with Wayne Jefferson, he does attribute to the internet and to the smartphone and the publishing of videos, many videos, this growing fear, especially in Black and African American and minority neighborhoods, fear of the officer. Is that fear in your mind justified by the common person of color, or is that fear unjustified? It's just been hyped up into them to be fearful of officers. Christian Bird.
I mean, it's probably a little bit of both. I mean, like, That's a little bit of both.
A little bit of both.
Yes, sir.
Well, we do thank you for calling. David Toulis here. The number is 800-8949. Do give a ring here on the studio line. That's 800-894-9. And the presentation last night mentioned that there are at least nearly 1,000 officer involved killings, as they're euphemistically called, a year. The numbers that were reported to the 32 people who were part of the class, the first class, the first of 9, was lower. The citation was to the Washington Post, but the number when I went to the Washington Post police killing website was not 707, the freshest one, but in 2017 actually 987. So I'm not sure how Officer Jefferson has a lower number. The details were not presented on the screen, and I couldn't quite figure out how we have a lower number. But when my concern about policing is that very often the people who are the officers have a military background. They have been in Iraq and Iran, or Iraq and Afghanistan, and maybe other conflicts as well. And so they view they view people not as those protected by law and constitutional rights, but they view them really as the enemy. When you're in the service, anyone wearing the local costume is viewed as someone who could hold an IED or a grenade or pull out an AK-47 and start firing from under a long white flowing garb. And so the soldiers as police officers, I think, is maybe a dangerous mix. What do you think?
I think police work is dangerous. And I will, we have to take every precaution we can. I mean, like I said, we really, you just got to trust us. I mean, just.
Are we always going to have police in our country? Will we always have them in some form or other, Christian?
Yes, we're gonna need the police maybe in the future. I mean, if we don't have police, the world will be messed up.
So you think if there weren't police departments, if we let's say we had, well, let me ask you this: do you make a distinction between police officers and sheriff's deputies? Are they somehow the exact same kind of person, or is there a real difference?
They're the same. I mean, they're no different. I mean, they're the same, but they're different agencies. I mean,
with whom would you rather work, sheriff's deputies or police department officers, and why?
I would probably use the police department. I mean, because I've been there for a long time, and if I grow a little bit more, maybe I will go to the sheriff's deputy. But I like the police department where I'm at.
And that's because you, Christian Bird, 26, work for 7 years now, since you were a senior in high school.
Yes, sir.
Right. You work for Red Bank City Court, serving Judge Johnny Houston. Well, the listener should know that's a very lively and somewhat, I'll say, very colorful court, very crowded and very loud. There's shouting back and forth. There's a what's the man? Not I was gonna say massive, but like the sergeant at arms. What's the name of that officer?
His name is Steve Hope, Sergeant Steve Hope.
And what does he do? What's his title?
He's the court officer.
Court officer. Okay, so there's like a deputy in charge of the court. He's scolding people while the judge may be talking, but he's on the side saying, "Ma'am, you can't stay in this. You can't be in this court with short pants like that," or "Sir, you can't come into this court with a ripped T-shirt.
Yes,
go home."
Yes,
go home and hurry back because we're only here for another hour, and so there's that kind of sort of bombardment from the front, and then there are lawyers gathering on the right, district attorney, district attorneys, or district attorneys, and officers clumped on the left. There are prisoners in the front in their orange jumpsuits. Is that right?
Yes, sir.
Christian, sometimes women, of course, they're segregated women, separate from the men.
Them.
Yeah. And so they're in the front and some in shackles.
Yes.
Right?
They have to be in shackles.
Why is that? Women in shackles?
Yes. I mean,
in Red Bank?
Yes. I mean, they have to. I mean, I guess it's part of their rule. I mean, I don't know why they have to do it, but they just do.
Even if the woman is just in undercharge for bad check cashing.
Yes, I mean, they still have to be in shackles.
Okay, so I guess there's no
protection. I mean, like it's for like their protection probably, and for ours.
You tough guys need protection from a woman accused of charging.
You never know. I mean, like.
Okay, well, it's just it's very colorful and very loud and sort of intense, but in a way, it's just kind of a mill. And the case is one person's being finished off, as it were, being told, okay, here's what you need to come back in a month. When you can get money enough together to pay the fine. And while that person's being told that very thing, the next person's being called, right?
Yes.
The name is being shouted out while the person's being addressed in the front by the booming voice that passes over the heads of all the throng, right? And then that person stands up and starts walking toward the bench in the front area there as the other person's finishing off. So there's a lot going on, and there you are in the middle of the excitement.
Yes.
He's smiling.
Yeah, I like that part.
You like that part. Well, that's that kind of you're a valid man. You belong there. You're not that place wouldn't be right if you, Christian Bird, were not there.
Yes, sir.
Right. And so you're hoping to be at some point a police department officer. What do you make of the schedule of Citizens Police Academy events? What excites you the most?
All of them.
I want to hear about the SWAT. I think that's, in fact, I've seen an ad on TV, which I don't watch, but I have seen ads for a show called SWAT. Trying to make the SWAT people look important and necessary, right?
Yes.
That is what these shows are about. They're sort of propaganda for the whole idea of policing in the police state. The police state, if you don't have it, the most wicked, malicious, vile people are going to get away with murder and mayhem and terrorism. And so we have to have these extraordinarily violent and courageous, very courageous men and women protecting us. And there is a class on that. And there's also, I think it's part of this class we were told by Wayne Jefferson, the shoot, don't shoot.
Mm-hmm.
What's that about?
I guess it's like for training for like if we get in like a pursuit and a person's coming and they hold a gun out and that means they probably won't like have to shoot. I mean, if we feel threatened, we probably will have to shoot. But if we don't feel threatened, I'm guessing like it's kind of like make sure they don't shoot an unarmed person or they have I can't explain.
Well, if the person is unarmed, but you have to determine whether your life is in danger, and you don't want to shoot someone by mistake.
Yes,
right?
exactly.
And so the whole game is not to get killed in the video encounter that you have, and not misread the cues of that person. Does he have a real gun, or is he just pulling out his phone?
Yes,
right?
Exactly.
Is she reaching to her purse for her billfold where her driver's license is, or does she have a pistol?
Right
in there, and when she's reaching for like what's in her hand, is it a pistol or is it the purse or is it the document? So that's what shoot don't shoot's all about. And do you see is there anything about that troubles you, or are you looking forward to taking part?
No, I'm looking forward. I'm looking forward to that, and I would like to do that. I mean, we need something like this. I mean, we need we getting like training in these techniques we need to do, and I think it's great.
You don't think that the shoot don't shoot training heightens the sense of danger that the officer has, and in fact makes him more trigger happy?
Probably both, because we do have a itchy trigger finger. I mean, like if I was a police officer, I never would do that. I mean, unless I feel threatened. And as long as I don't feel threatened, I will never pull my gun out.
Well, this is David Toulis. We've been chatting with Christian Bird, who is taking part with me in the class put on by the Chattanooga Police Department, which is about the citizen and the public. It's done so that there might be a humanization of the police department and its people. And what the officials hope is that there'll be more well, not necessarily respect for officers, but more empathy with them. They are in a calling that has fewer and fewer people who want to join. The academy, held 3 times a year, is having trouble finding people to go through it to become graduating officers. There's not really a lot of training that goes into police work in the United States. In some countries, you have to be in training for 2 or 3 years. Countries where the death rate among civilians is almost non-existent, whereas in this country, it's 1,200 a year, I would say. That's the number of people killed by police annually. It is a remarkable phenomenon that the country that has the peace-loving, democratic-oriented America has the most prisoners per capita and the most killings by officers per capita than any country in the world. And so police are trying to, I hope, reduce that level of violence, but also to have a more connection to people. Christian Brose, thank you for joining us.
Thank you.
He and I are in the class together for the police academy. The name is David Toulis, and the number to call is 800-8949, 800-8949. Let's talk about something that's on your mind in the next segment. David Toulis.
3, 2, 1.
Chattanooga Radio. Digital FM 95.3 HD4. 92.7 FM's news now.
A special thanks to our brave first responders working through some terrible conditions. This includes Tennessee linemen ready for action as Florence slams the coast. Close to 200 elect linemen from across the state of Tennessee are on their way to the coast. The various municipalities involved include Athens, Murfreesboro, and Tullahoma. Airbnb offering short-term vacation rentals for free to evacuees through its Open Homes program. The offer will end October 1st. If you're visiting from an affected area, just check your app. And a judge this week denied a death row inmate's efforts to block his October 11th execution by reviving a federal lawsuit. The move brings added urgency to a separate lethal injection challenge pending with the Tennessee Supreme Court, reports the Tennessean. Edmund Zagorski set to be executed. He's convicted of shooting and slitting the throats of his victims in Robertson County. Val St. John for Nooga Radio, News Talk 92.7, Action News now.
Sean Hannity, weekday afternoons from 3 to 6 p.m. on Nooga Radio 92.7 FM.
Nooga Radio 92.7.
Get 8.1% on your money, guaranteed in writing. That's right. Get 8.1% return on your money at Rick Davis Gold and Diamonds. American Gold Eagle Bullion will return you 8.1% on your money. That's right. Get 8.1% return on your money at Rick Davis Gold and Diamonds. American Gold Eagle Bullion will return you 8.1% on your money at Rick Davis Gold and Diamonds, Brainerd Road, Chattanooga.
Let's face it, Old Faithful isn't as faithful as it used to be. Constant repairs are a hassle and can rack up quick and money and time. Landers McClarty Ford can fix that. Right now, you can get a 2016 Ford Focus, 34,000 miles, only $11,491. A 2017 Chevy Spark with only 17,000 miles for less than $12,000. A 2015 Volkswagen Jetta with less than 21,000 miles for $11,991. Yeah, browse their entire inventory of new and new-to-you cars, trucks, and SUVs online at Landers McCarty Ford of Fort Payne.com. Landers McClarty Ford of Fort Payne. If you can't find your next perfect ride, they'll go find it for you. Big city selection, small town prices, friendly service, and top dollar for your trade. The savings are waiting and only a short drive away, so what are you waiting for? Get started with your personalized shopping today at Landers McClarty Ford of FortPayne.com.
Join Keon Rose and Nick LaFew this Friday night with the Amco Transmission and Total Car Care High School Football Game of the Week. This Friday night's the Battle of the Battlefield Parkway between Ringgold and Lakeview Fort Oglethorpe. But join me, Sam Jordan, for the 101 Personal Training Countdown to Kickoff beginning at 7:05 p.m. And then join in for the Death Quarter Show till 11 p.m. That's Ringgold versus Lakeview Fort Oglethorpe beginning at 7:05 p.m. with a Countdown to Kickoff on Nooga Radio 92.7 FM.
Join Nooga Radio and the Gridiron Gang live from 7 to 9 at Starbucks at 10 North on the North Shore. We're talking all things high school football. There's a specialty brew or refresher weekly inspired by the game of the week. Sweet treats, extended hours all season long, and we're pet friendly. Portions of all proceeds support local schools and educational scholarships as well as after-school programs. It's football time in Tennessee. Join us every Thursday live from 7 to 9 at Starbucks, 10 North, your North Shore neighborhood living living room.
Your home is a constant work in progress. Repaint the walls? Yeah, easy enough. Leaky faucet? There's a video for that. But roof repair? You might want some help. That's where Chattanooga Roofing Contractors come in. They have 3 generations of roofing excellence you can count on. Leave the ladder in the garage. Go to chatroofing.com. That's chatroofing.com for Chattanooga Roofing Contractors, a roofing company you can trust. Man, you sure you know what you're doing?
Yeah, I worked with my dad on his truck all the time. Just one more bolt to go.
Yeah, wrong bolt. Today's truck ain't your daddy's truck. For repairs on today's vehicles, you need Amco Transmission and Total Car Care of Chattanooga on Lee Highway. Stay on the road, not in the garage. Amco Transmission on Lee Highway. Get it done the right way. The Thompson Pet way. Yeah, I just put that in.
Join We've Got You Covered with Scott Schrader every Saturday from 10 to 11 on Nooga Radio. From finance to fixtures, we discuss everything you need to know about buying or owning a home, the pitfalls, the perks, and everything in between. Saturday mornings, 10 to 11, right here on Nooga Radio.
Nooga Radio, Chattanooga weather.
Expect lots of sunshine and hot weather out there for your afternoon. Highs 90 to 92. Tonight, fair, warm, muggy. Lows only 70 to 72. For Saturday, mostly sunny, continued hot. Highs near 90 with more clouds, a few passing showers possible Sunday. Glass Farm Nursery is now open with a big selection of trees and shrubs for fall planting, as well as first quality 8-inch mums. Open daily, closed Sundays. That's Glass Farm Highway 11, 4 miles south of Trenton. And I'm Sorgene 12, Chief Meteorologist at your 4.
Nooga Radio 92.7.
Now, the smartest guy with a bow tie in Chattanooga, Tennessee, David Toulis.
Botham Jean in Dallas shot down by the deputy, by the police officer in his apartment, and now there are searches being made of that property. And guess what? A little bit of marijuana was found, and well, somehow my mind is changing. He's not really a victim anymore. Maybe he deserved it. Possibly he deserved it. So you have a search warrant for this man's apartment to find missing things, right? Missing police cartridge casings, fired projectiles, firearms, ballistic vests, keys, evidences of blood, video surveillance systems, and contraband such as narcotics. So there's a search made for this property, and well, we really have to search that man's house because we need to find our lost bullet, right? We fired a bullet, and if one went into him and came out, we got to find that. If we missed, we got to find where in the wall it went. And our shell casings, well, got to find those too. You know, it's in the dark, and they bounced off to the right. We need to get those. So the inventory returned, according to Fox News, was 2 fired cartridge casing, a laptop computer, 1 black backpack with police equipment and paperwork. We're not sure what that means. 1 insulated lunchbox, 1 black ballistic vest with police markings, 10.4 grams of marijuana in Ziploc bags, 1 metal marijuana grinder, 2 RFID keys, 2 used packages of medical aid. Now, you know, things that are incriminating, I would say it's entirely possible are planted by the Texas Rangers or the Dallas Police Department. These things are not necessarily part of this man's life. When you have control of the crime scene, which police do, you control the crime scene, right? And when one of your own has done something that seems to be criminal or at the very least a grave mistake, you will find a way to protect that person, even though that person may have done things you wouldn't have done. Your loyalty, your fidelity, your honor all work toward the end of making this not a crime, just a tragic mistake. Botham Jean dead at the hands of Amber Geiger, and his apartment searched multiple times, multiple search warrants as part of the investigation. Okay, so we smear on the day of his funeral this man who is said to have been a devout Christian and a very fine man in the business field, made to these things are made to deflate the sympathy of this man. I think it's unfortunate. His attorney says that law enforcement begin to immediately criminalize the victim. In this case, someone who clearly was the victim, that has absolutely no bearing on the fact that he was shot in the home. This is Lee Merritt, the family's attorney. I would love to see some more information coming out about the warrants executed on the home of the shooter who lived just below him. I haven't seen any of those, and particularly for it to be on this day, the day that we remember and celebrate him, to see the common assassination attempt on the victim that we often see in law enforcement involved shootings. Daryl Washington is an attorney for the family. It doesn't change the story about the bags of marijuana said to be found. She claimed that she went into a place she thought was her apartment. She didn't claim she had gone somewhere because she thought that there was some sort of criminal activity. And I know because of how he lived his life, it won't stain his reputation because he lived his life so virtuously. Merritt added, that's someone else being quoted, but it's unfortunate law enforcement has taken this turn. And that is true. Law enforcement officers are elite. They are an elite. And we have in Tennessee, we have in Chattanooga, long string of they're exempt from apparently from God's laws. They're exempt from the need to obey the Constitution even. And we have asked the mayor why his care of his own department is so remote. And maybe I simply need to do the job that you've expected me, and that is to make requests of all records pertaining all communication between the mayor and the chief of police, all communications that I'll have to find some keywords that would cover a large body of letters, and just get digital copies of those and start reading to see if there's any correspondence by mail. Of course, oral communications are not. You really can't get those as are by phone, and only the NSA knows what really is going on the phone between the mayor and David Roddy. But that's a department that is to be bound by law. And we know in a large way it is not bound by law. And I want to mention the news from an attorney this morning. I saw a man I know, Clay Whitaker, and I said, Clay, what is the word about Hanson Melvin? And there has been a settlement in a case that was filed by Hanson Melvin, of a police victim that we covered extensively in 2016 and 2017. And the name is David Toulis. Caller, what is on your mind, please? This is the Hanson walking while black Melvin case. He was arrested for walking in his apartment complex along the edges of a place where there had been something of a fracas, and police called en masse to bring order and restore peace. And it was demanded of him that he present his driver's license while he was walking, that he state his SSN, and David Campbell, the abrupt, peremptory, sort of absolutist young man who's on the force, arrested him, used the foulest profanity, just the absolute foulest of profanity that should be a firing offense in Chattanooga, but it is accepted by city council. It is accepted by Ken Smith on the city council, who doesn't believe there's any problem apparently going on with police, and everybody else on the city council who are all somehow naive. And they're naive because they don't read Nuganomics.com. I don't think any of them are subscribers. I can't make them subscribers. I can't send them an email every time I post a story about police abuse. And there have been a stack of stories, just an absolute stack. And the mayor doesn't care. I'd say he somehow is above the hoi polloi. That is to say, you and me, the common people, right, who are under police oppression by incidental personality arrivals on the scene, A, and then B, by policy. There are two two forms. The most important one, though, is the Title 55 abuse that I am pursuing against that department. And I'm doing so in the interest of individual officers who are now vulnerable. And I'm thinking perhaps of Wayne Jefferson, who's just a regular police sergeant. And what's happened is we have a persistent abuse, as we've been telling you. And Mr. Jefferson has this to say about the police academy, which is beginning yesterday evening at 6 o'clock. This is Wayne Jefferson, a police department sergeant.
What is your rank, Officer Wayne Jefferson? Sergeant. Okay, tell my listener about the Citizen Police Academy. What are you trying to accomplish tonight and in the next meetings every Thursday night?
Well, what we're trying to do right now is actually bridge the gap between the police and community. If you know more about us, you can understand more, and it helps us when we're coming out to help you. And when it's showing it's not all negative, but sometimes it's just a job we have to do. If you got more of an understanding of anything, you work with it a little bit better.
Well, are there changes in the way police are conducting their business in the past couple of years that the people in the class will be hearing about? Are there things that are that they'll learn in the way of new trends or new practices or new ideas?
Yes. We have become more technical. We've become more understanding. We are trying to teach more of community policing, going back to just getting out, talking to people. So it's a lot of things we're changing the last few years. And a lot of it is based on we're trying to become more of the community instead of a separate entity.
You said in your presentation that the car has somehow become central, all the gadgets, all the computers, all the databases, and somehow it's in a way crippled the ability and the practice of relating to the people. Can you say something about that and how you and other officers will deal with the people, such as the 30-some who are in the class tonight?
Well, the biggest thing is people come to this class and officers actually get to come out. But a lot of times they are locked in that car because we're going from call to call to call to call. And they don't get out and get a chance to talk to people. And most of the officers, especially in these last academies, that's what they love to do. So we're making more of an opportunity, getting more officers on the road. So it's more of an opportunity for the officers to actually stop at a YFD center and play with the kids and talk to the kids. That's what we're trying to do, is get back into the roots of the community.
And the people here they're not police people. There may be one or two who want to become cadets. There was one young man sat in the front row who wants to become a cadet. What is the argument, if you will, that the Citizens Police Academy makes to the civilians in the room?
The biggest argument I say is we're human and we learn from each other.
So the department wants you to understand that its officers are human. Well, that if things have fallen so far apart between the people and the mayor's workers, that the main argument is we're human, then I would say that the situation is very strained indeed. And Officer Jefferson really, I would say, made that admission. It was not something that I'm alleging that there's a gap between the people and the mayor's staff. It is a very large gap indeed. In fact, there were several statements kind of at the beginning of the program where that was highlighted. We are bridging the gap. For example, the Academy is said to be trying to change our culture. That, again, to change culture is something that having a weekly gathering of 30 people is hard. It can be hard stressed to affect, right? That you can't bring much change with a small group like that over a short time. There has been, of course, a great deal of media favor of policing and police personalities, police noblemen, police giants of character in popular TV shows. And the police are always the good guys, though there sometimes are bad apples, right? We do bring them to justice. We bring them to account. That's always the storyline. And so it's effectively television in much media is marketing for the whole executive state, of which the police are a leading picture. Right? They are kind of the down at the common man. You don't see the state except perhaps from an IRS notice or the police. Right? The police are the enforcers of the very idea of the state. They are political. They serve a political purpose, And but there has been, of course, a falling away, and we can thank better technology that he mentions. He mentions that we're becoming more technical. He's talking about we have more computers, we have more databases, more surveillance, quicker way of finding people, tracking their phones, and making, holding people to account who are the enemies of the public order, right? Lawbreakers and the enemies of peace. We can track them down better, more effectively with technology. And yet there is this gap, and the police know that if they lose the people, their work is more difficult. They know that police can't see a lot, and so they rely on the commoners, the people in the neighborhood, to discern changes in particular houses, comings and goings of young men who may be involved in criminal activity. And the desire of this sergeant is that police and the community, as he said, work together. So you have that kind of recognition of the need to be connected with the people, and yet I'm curious and wondering, can this sense of isolation and separation be reduced or healed? And the answer is no, it can't. But on the other hand, we are people, right? We're showing you that we're human beings, and we want you to understand that we have families too. And I would say, just as a word of caution, yes, policemen have families, and policewomen do too. But the training in the academy, if it's typical here as it is elsewhere, has a mantra, and the mantra is so strongly put that the officers reduce risk in a very great way and cast off the risk upon the public. And the mantra is, do anything you can to get home at night and to your family. That's the most important thing. Whatever you have to do to get home at night. So somehow they're put on guard. They're made to feel that they're in a war setting. And since many of these people are military veterans, that fits just fine with their long accustomed habit of being in a war zone. And so people are not treated with respect. People are treated with great violence. And I'm thinking particularly of an incident overlooked except for us here, Marie Mott and me at New York Radio 927 FM and 95.3 FM HD4. We noticed the Noah McLemore search and seizure and arrest in early August. It was something it just came across it on Facebook. He posted this video. Man who runs a shoe shop, and an officer approached him with her gun drawn on Highway 58. He's a man standing in front of his store in his place of business, smoking a cigarette. But, he was wearing a wife beater t-shirt, and he was a very dark-skinned African-American. Those combinations and a call from somebody, she said, made her the first on the scene, the first of 3 or 4 police cars, one arriving with the siren roaring, and a Terry pat down of this man. He was humiliated. He was humiliated and terrified that she had her gun drawn because she didn't know who he was, right? He stood in the glass doorway of his business. She didn't know who he was. And so she came up from the side, as he tells me, from the side out of his field of view with her weapon drawn. And then because she said she didn't know him, she forced him to spread eagle against the glass, which later the next day broke. In fact, there was a break in the glass because she made him lean himself against it as she patted him down in search of weapons, right? And he kept saying, my ID is on the counter and my business license is on the wall where it's supposed to be. She wouldn't hear any of that. And then she lied. She lied. She said, well, you were very hostile toward me about giving me any information about why I was talking to you and everything else, she says, according to the Facebook video. He wasn't hostile at all. And she never asked him what his name was. And she never actually said, could you please tell me what your name is? And the fact that she approached him that way just shows why there is this dread of cops, this hatred of cops all across the Black community, and a dread of cops probably in African-American, in Hispanic communities as well, and among white people who are poor, because policing is a social management function. Police manage the poor, regulate the poor, and make people like you and me not have to worry about them, right? We don't have to worry about them. And they are constantly being put in their place. Poor people such as Keelah Jackson about whom we are learning more about her ideas. She thinks she has a right to travel on the road. Make sure you go to our Facebook page, Nougat Radio. We are live there. And if you go down a couple of notches, you'll see an interview she gives me this morning. Very important interview. It's just 2 minutes, maybe 3 minutes long. And she explains why she's in city court. She's had enough of being oppressed by what I would say is fairly called the white legal political establishment, put there by lawyers. Lawyers have brought much disaster to our country. The high court, which brought us the slaughter of 60 million children, many of them black, are lawyers, right? And in Nashville, we have lawyers causing a continuing oppression of free people such as Keelah Jackson. Keelah Jackson, believe it or not, she wants to be free. It's just remarkable to me, someone who says, I want to be free. And so when someone wants to be free, they pay attention to what David Toulis has to say. And they consider what David Toulis thinks, because I'm trying to help. I'm trying to encourage people like her. And the Noah McLemore story is a picture of reform that needs to happen in Chattanooga. And we have Jesse Blatt the week before with the Jesse Parker ATF raid, where automatic weapons and shotguns were aimed at this man in his house in the middle of the night. And 6 small children, as young as 5, had automatic weapons with Chattanooga Police Department cooperation aiming at them. Then there is the Brian Cotell shooting of a man committing suicide that Brian, thanks to his training, right, to his professional training, fired 3 times at him. And about the same time he fired the fatal shot on himself. His attorney says that he was in a stressful and rapidly evolving situation involving an armed suspect with a gun. He acted reasonably pursuant to his extensive training and years of experience. Then there's the Alan Trumbo story, where the officer, rather than being charged like anybody else would be, is just told, well, your resignation will be accepted, sacrifice for your giving us, we're going to give you some grace. The Diana Walk dragging from the car story, the Avery Gray story, Desmond Logan, an officer accused of rape, still on the force. How do these things happen, and why do we not think that there is not resentment? Probably resentment here and there, but fear in many areas. And so the police academy is trying to undo that. David Toulis here, taking part in that academy as a private citizen, learning more, trying to be helpful. David Toulis.
3, 2, 1.
Chattanooga Radio. Digital FM 95.3 HD4. 92.7 FM's news now.
A special thanks to